Yes, you can indulge in delicious chocolate chip cookies that are gluten-free and are made without any processed white flour or sugar. My recipe is anti-inflammatory, easily digestible, and naturally sweet. And I am so excited to show you how easy it is to make. Just like a traditional chocolate chip cookie recipe, we're going to start by blending together our oil as well as our sweetener. With this recipe, we're going to sweeten it with 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. And then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of solid coconut oil. If your oil isn't quite solid yet, just throw it into the fridge for a few minutes until it is. And I'm going to use the whisk attachment to my immersion blender to mix these together. So we'll start on a medium speed. All right, that looks great. Next, we're going to add our wet ingredients, which includes 1 large egg, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and I cheat and just use the lid to my vanilla because it's basically 1 teaspoon. And to add a little additional flavor, I like to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of almond extract. Not only does it give it a wonderful fragrance, but also just a little more flavor, which I really enjoy. I can smell that already. We're just going to mix these together until the egg is incorporated. There we go. Only took a few seconds. Next, we're going to add our dry ingredients, and we're going to add 2 cups of almond flour. And then we'll add 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And now we'll gently blend those together. All right. And just like that, we have our cookie dough. To sweeten these, we're going to add 1/2 cup of chocolate chips. And there are so many different varieties available, and you can use whichever ones that you like best. My favorite are made by Hue, and they are no sugar added chocolate chips. And they are sweetened with dates instead. So we're going to give that a quick mix. There we go. To form our cookies, we're going to take a baking sheet and then line it with parchment paper. This makes it so much more convenient for getting the cookies on and off of the pan. In terms of the size of your cookies, you can choose between using the medium-sized scoop or a small scoop, depending on what size you'd like your cookies to be. I'm going to go ahead and use my medium scoop. And we'll just simply scoop up some dough, and you'll see it has the same consistency as a traditional cookie dough. And we'll just scoop those all onto our tray. These cookies are not going to spread very far when they bake, so you don't need to be too concerned about putting a lot of distance between them. Go in and kind of clean some of these up a little bit just so we have some nice round cookies. So as you can see, this recipe makes, let's say, 4, 12, about 15 of these medium-sized cookies. And now this will go into the oven at 350 degrees for 10 minutes. These just came out of the oven and they look amazing. As you can see, they really don't flatten very much. So what you can do is just take a spatula while they're still warm, just go around and give them just a little bit of a pat. We'll call it a love pat, just to take them down so that they have a little bit more of a flatter shape to them. And having that parchment sheet makes it so much easier that we can just slide those right off our pan and let those cool. Oh, I am so excited because I haven't had lunch yet and these look absolutely delicious. So I will be patient and wait until it cools enough to try one. Okay, now they're cool enough to try. Look at that, nice and soft, a little bit crispy on the outside, but soft on the inside. They're so delicious. That's a lot of chocolate. And now for the sugar comparison. I made a batch of cookies made from a more traditional cookie recipe, and these were sweetened with 1/4 cup of white processed sugar and about 1/2 cup of brown sugar. And in each of these cookies, there's about 12 grams of sugar. We'll compare that to 3 sugar cubes. Now in this cookie recipe, we sweetened it with 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. So the amount of sugar in each cookie is about 6 grams, which is equal to about 1 sugar cube plus about 1/4 of another. So you can see in comparison that the traditional cookie has far more sugar. And it's also a processed white sugar versus a naturally sweet sugar that comes from the maple syrup in this recipe. I'd also like to point out a few other nutritional benefits of this recipe, and that's in protein. This cookie has about 1.5 grams per cookie, whereas my recipe has about 3.5 grams of protein per cookie. And that's because of the addition of the almond flour, which brings its superfood superpowers to the table. I'll also mention dietary fiber. This cookie has about 0.5 gram per cookie, whereas this recipe has 2 grams of fiber. Although this cookie has less sugar than a traditional, it is still a sweet and should be eaten in moderation. But at least for myself and as a mom for my kids, I can have a little more peace of mind knowing that they're getting some extra nutrition in addition to a happy sweet tooth. But they don't need to know about the extra protein and fiber. We'll just keep that our secret. And on the glycemic index, this cookie rates in a moderate level, whereas my recipe will rate on a low level. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen today. You can find a recipe card for this recipe as well as many other healthy recipes on my website, which is gentletummy.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you know someone else who could benefit from a delicious gluten-free chocolate chip cookie, be sure to share this with them. I promise they won't mind. I look forward to seeing you next time.